Hey there, everybody. Welcome to a new Blacklist Season 9 theory discussion. We are still amidst the hiatus.
Yep.
It's sad. While we are all sort of wiping away our metaphorical or perhaps literal tears, we do have a new discussion to get into about none other than Harold Cooper and the big mystery that has sort of been going through most of this season so far.
We also want to remind everybody that when the show comes back, it is coming back on Fridays.
Yes.
So we will be back after the episodes on Fridays.
So, yeah, and we'll have to, I guess, readjust our brains for all of that, but be sure you watch it. We still haven't heard about a season 10 at the time of this. I know. That is driving me crazy. It is making me sad. I hope we get something soon. But all right, before we get into Cooper and who may be responsible for setting him up, hit that subscribe button, and thank you guys for getting us over the 58,000 mark.
Yeah, we just hit 58,000 subscribers a few days ago. It's a really big milestone for us.
Yeah.
So hit that subscribe button if you want Blacklist content. We've got Blacklist coming up every week,
Yes.
even during the hiatus. We are here for you. Okay.
All right.
So Cooper, we all know that Cooper is getting set up for this murder of Charlene's ex-lover. So who are the suspects, and do we think that they are, viable or not? Okay, we have Charlene.
Yes.
Charlene is a big one that a lot of people really think is a suspect on this. I was really thinking about it, what would her motivation be to set up Cooper to take the fall for this, murder of her ex-lover? Like, that relationship with this guy ended, was it 7 years ago, 6 years ago, 8 years ago? So long ago. And both of them have moved forward. So why all of a sudden has she decided to do this?
It's a weird thing to sort of think about, because if they suddenly have her pull off the metaphorical mask and is somehow evil, or creating some huge scheme to get Cooper arrested intentionally, or all of this, and is just cackling to herself, it would be such a hard sell, because there's been no evidence of her being nefarious or evil or any of that as of late on the show. I think they would have a really hard time selling that unless they have a full Charlene flashback episode, which I don't think they're gonna do.
No. So is she maybe being blackmailed?
Yeah. I could see her being blackmailed. I could see her being something where she feels like she has no choice, where, her life or even Cooper's life could be in danger in some of this. I mean, no matter what, I think she's struggling, I think, being a lot in this position, having, this guy Coster she was with, having, his dead body being sort of brought back to the forefront of everything that happened with the two of them. This was so long ago. I'm sure she tried to bury it, and it's probably putting her in a very difficult place mentally.
Okay, so another person that we've seen a lot of who could be behind this is Reddington. And it seems like the main motivation we've seen online, that people think that Reddington is setting up Cooper so that he will go to jail so he can have custody of Agnes. And they've mentioned recently on the show that it's Cooper, Harold and Charlene that have custody of Agnes. So even if Cooper goes off to jail, Charlene is going to be the person who's going to end up having Agnes. It is not Reddington. But the more that I sort of think about it, I'm like, is this really a motivation? Because, listen, it's Reddington. If Reddington really just wanted to take Agnes and leave, he would. And there wouldn't be a lot anyone could really do to stop it. But him and, Cooper, they're friends. And they've been friends for a long time. They've known each other for a long time. Reddington needs the task force. A lot of this doesn't benefit Red, especially since he has access to Agnes kind of whenever he wants. He's over there reading her bedtime stories.
It makes no sense at all for it to be Reddington. I've tried to think about it from every possible angle, because it's let's say Charlene gets out of the equation then too. Do you think like any like real adoption agency or social worker is going to sign off on, here, let's give her to criminal mastermind Raymond Reddington? It's just like, yeah, it's like you said, he can take her and go off whenever he wants, but he doesn't need Cooper to be in jail in order to do that. And let's say Cooper ends up getting, dismissed or arrested or is no longer on the task force, then, they are friends. And then what? Wrestler ends up getting promoted. Wrestler, I guess would kind of sort of work with Reddington, maybe a little, but it's not going to be better than him and Cooper. It's probably going to be worse.
Yeah, I just think that for Cooper not being around for what Reddington wants to do right now,
yeah,
it is worse for him at this point. He's got his access to Agnes.
Yeah.
He's got Cooper, who he can work with, and they can work together. So he has access to the task force for all his blacklisters and everything else he needs.
Yeah.
Reddington's in a good spot with Cooper, so it doesn't actually behoove him to get rid of Cooper.
This is the only thing I can think about, and this is some real Reddington like 4D chess at this point, where he is like, I know that Cooper will be suspected, but I know that Cooper will figure this out, and eventually we will nail the person that's responsible, and then I can say to Cooper, I helped you do it, and I can form an even closer bond. But that is just like pure, like off the deep end, to the point where nobody's ever going to be able to swim to the shore ever again speculation.
Okay, so one of the biggest suspects is Panabaker, because we've seen that Panabaker and Cooper are really at odds. Like at the beginning of the season, she was just venomous towards him in the way that she was speaking towards him. But then we kind of look at it and it's like, okay, so Reddington pushed her back into getting the task force back together again. So she needs to have the task force back together again. So then why is she going to basically try to dismantle it by getting rid of Cooper? What is the motivation?
This is complicated. And okay, I know that, we keep bringing up Panabaker, and I know I in particular have seemed a little bit too obsessed that Panabaker is responsible for everything. I promise this is not a bit, but it's just like with this one, I think there is a better chance of Panabaker being actually responsible for this than Panabaker being the person who like tracked down VANDYKE and all that stuff we talked about in the last video. We have that linked in the description. It's just here, like you said, the problem is how and why Panabaker would do this after getting the task force back together. And the only thing I can sort of think of is, okay, she wants to make Reddington happy for whatever reason. They need to have the task force together, but she wants to find a way still to get revenge on Cooper for whatever it is that caused these two to have the massive falling out. And maybe she thinks the only way she can do this is with some big clandestine operation where she probably would have had to hire someone to sort of orchestrate all of this, frame Cooper. I don't think Panabaker is someone who would risk doing it all directly herself, because I think she would want a paper trail, because she would assume Cooper's smart enough to put some pieces together.
I just think that if she really wanted Cooper to not be part of the task force, she would have tried to negotiate something like that with Reddington when it all kind of came together, where he's like, you're going to put the task force together. At that point, she would have been like, okay, but I have a concession, and that's going to be no Cooper. I want someone else to be in charge. And then Reddington could be like, no, it has to be Cooper. And that way, Cooper's still in there. But that there's got to be something there of like, why is it only Cooper then? Because if she's kind of like, I just need to get rid of the task force, I want to run for president, which is something that you had said that maybe that's what she wants to do. I want my hands clean of this task force. That can't come back up. Well, then everybody would be getting burned, not just Cooper, but nothing's happening to anybody else.
It would have to be some real methodical plan where she's like, I'm going to take out Cooper first, then I'm going to prove that Wrestler faked his drug test somehow, then I'm going to go after Park, and it would be a very, very elaborate plot. And
good luck getting anything on Aram.
Yeah. Aram is an angel on Earth. You cannot do anything to hurt Aram. This is just all really, really tricky, and it is a very big risk because, if one thing goes awry with all this plan and it's Panabaker, she could easily be former Senator Panabaker by the end of all of it.
Okay, so the last person that we kind of are thinking about is that it's someone that we don't really know,
Yeah.
or someone that was connected to Cooper in the past. So, I mean, Cooper's put away a lot of people.
Yeah.
It is very possible that it's just somebody who's got it out for him.
I think whether or not this is satisfying would be dependent, like, solely based on who it was, how they brought them back, or how they brought them in for the first time, and having it be connected, because I could understand there being a lot of people after the fact that were just being like, okay, you set all this up for somebody who I don't even care about being responsible. It can work. It's just going to be all sort of based on the final execution of it and how they play that out.
So, also, could this somehow be connected to VANDYKE? I do not think so. It just doesn't. I don't know why. Like, why would VANDYKE or a Townsend or that whole organization care about Cooper at this point?
It's fun to think about. I will say that. I have had a lot of fun trying to connect the two and sort of making this all some elaborate, like, larger plot, but it is a situation where it's difficult to connect the two motives, and it's difficult to really see someone who has the capability of doing, like, the first thing with VANDYKE also being capable of doing it. Because it's like, we talked about Marvin Gerard. Like, why would Marvin, who very well could be behind the VANDYKE stuff, why would he care about Cooper leading the task force?
No, I don't think he cares.
Yeah, so like that makes this really, really hard, but at least the Blacklist, you guys have given us a couple of good quality mysteries to think about over this last little while. We are finally going somewhere with this season.
Yeah, this Cooper mystery is a really good one, because as we've gone through all these people, there really is, like, reasons why it could or could not be, but mostly could not be these people. So it really is kind of like, well, then who really would have, like, a real motivation to go against Cooper? What could it possibly be?
Hopefully we get answers on this very, very soon. But of course, hit that subscribe button, because we will be talking about this storyline inevitably again soon. And we don't want you guys to miss that. And we will see you here next time.